You've made it to the final part of my tutorial on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. In the first tutorial, I showed you how to solve the white cross and the white corners. In the second tutorial, I showed you how to solve the second layer. In this third tutorial, I'll show you the steps to solving the third layer. There are 7 steps to solving a Rubik's Cube. The first 2 were shown in the first video, the third was shown in the second video, and I will show you the final 4 in this last video. The first step to solving the last layer is the 4th step in solving the entire cube, and that would be focusing on the edges and the centerpiece of the last layer. The goal is to get the cube to look like this, with the yellow cross. We will not be focusing at all on the yellow corners until the last step of the tutorial. There are 4 cases you'll run into. One of the cases is shown here. All of the cases, right here, from most moves to least moves, are the dot, the line, the J, and the cross. The dot will turn into the line once you apply the algorithm, and then you apply the algorithm once more and get the J, and then you apply it again to solve for the cross. Once you solve for the cross, you can move on to the 5th step. If you have the cross, you can move on to the 5th step, but you will always run into all of these cases, and they are all very common. So I recommend that you stick around to listen to this 4th part of the tutorial. The dot, you will have to apply this algorithm 3 times. The line, you'll have to apply it twice, and the J, you'll have to apply it once. The algorithm is F-U-R-U-I-R-I-F-I. I will start with the J because you only need to apply the algorithm once. I would start with the cross, but you need to do absolutely nothing to fix that because it's already at the point where we need it to be. So if I apply the algorithm that I just said, front, up, right, up inverted, right inverted, front inverted, it will turn into the cross, like this. I only need to apply the algorithm once. If I take this, the line, and apply the algorithm once, with the line always facing horizontal. And I would like to point out that when you solve for the J, you always have to have it facing you as a J. If it's facing you like an L, then that will not resolve into the cross. If it's a J, it will come out some other way, but if it's a J, it'll come into the cross. But if it's not a J facing you, it will not end correctly. So in this case, we will have to make sure that it is aligned horizontally, facing you, parallel to you. So we'll apply the algorithm once, front, up, right inverted, right inverted, front inverted. And notice it turns into the J. And like I just told you before, that you will need to have it into the position of a J. So if you hold it like an L and then use the algorithm, it will not turn out like a cross. So you need to hold it like this with the J and apply the algorithm once more. Front, up, right, front. And it turned into the cross. Notice I did that twice to make it turn into the cross. The last case is what I call the dot. You'll need to apply the algorithm 3 times. The line we did twice and the J we did it once. So with the dot, you can face it any way you want. And then just apply the algorithm once. Front, up, right, front. And then it will turn into the line. And you know that once it's a line, you make sure it's parallel to you, horizontally. And then you apply the algorithm for the second time. Front, up, right, front. And it turns into the J, and then you do it once more. And there we go. All of the different cases have been solved into a cross. Now you can move on to the 5th step. The 5th step of solving the last layer of the cube is to match up each of the yellow edges with their corresponding sides. There are 3 cases. One is where 2 are matched up in a line, blue, blue, green, green, and these 2 need to be switched. One of them, or the second one, is where you have 2 that are next to each other and these 2 need to be flipped. And the third is just where it's already solved. Just like in the last 4th step, the cross might have already been solved, so we can just put that one off to the side. And again, I recommend that you watch that because both of these cases are more than likely to happen. So the first case is the one that will happen a little bit more often. The one where you have two edges that are matched up that are adjacent to each other. If you don't have them where they're adjacent from each other, you might have it like this where there's only one matching. Then you might need to turn it until there are two. So if we turn it like this, we have none. If we turn it again, we have one green. But if we turn it one more time, you find that you have an orange and a blue. Once you've done that, you can apply this algorithm. Right, up, right inverted, up, right, up twice, right inverted, and then just match them up back to their original positions. And there we go. We've solved for all of the edges in the correct positions on each of the sides. So that's the first case. And remember, don't focus on the corners at this point. We're just focusing on matching up the edges with their sides. Again, this step may not seem like it's doing much of a difference, but it's very crucial to solving the cube. So this case is where you have two that are across from each other. And again, you might have it so that none of them are matching. Just keep turning it until two are matching. And if you don't find them where they're adjacent from each other, they might be opposite from each other. If they're opposite from each other, you'll make sure that it's facing vertically to you or perpendicular from you, like this, green, blue. And then you'll apply the algorithm right, up, right inverted, up, right, up twice, right inverted. And then you will see that you have two that are adjacent from each other. And then you apply the algorithm just like you did before. Right, up, right inverted, up twice, right. And then you match them up with the centers. The most important thing in solving for the yellow edges is to make sure that when you find two that are next to each other, that they are in an L shape instead of like a J shape like last time. I forgot to mention that earlier. When you apply the algorithm, you have to make sure that it's an L. So that's the fifth step of solving the cube. And now we'll